Asalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a Muslimah life coach and I support Muslim women with relationship and mental health issues. So if you're interested in being coached in those areas, you can find me over on my website, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. But over here on YouTube, I make Islamic lifestyle as well as dawah content. So if you're interested in that, definitely make sure you subscribe. You can also find me over on Patreon, where I teach women about femininity, how to become a wife before you get the ring. And for women who are already married, I teach them about how to improve their marriage by just making the most of their femininity. So if you're interested in that, check me out on Patreon. Today's video is another topic that I touch on very carefully. I've been wanting to make this video for a very, very long time. But I've just been thinking twice about what I bring to the table when it comes to this conversation. And honestly, a lot is happening. Polygamy is a topic that is very close to a lot of people's hearts. And a lot of people are not about polygamy and some people are for it. But at the end of the day, it is a part of our religion. It's a part of something Allah has allowed and ordained for a wisdom that He knows best on. And when it comes to us women, that's where we have to begin this. We cannot, even if we don't choose to practice polygamy, which is a choice, it's not by force. And I say it's a choice because you don't have to marry a man who is, who has other wives. You don't have to. You get to choose who you marry and who you stayed married to for on top of that too. So at the end of the day, this video I wanted to make to share some of the reasonings behind why Muslim women sometimes don't want to engage in polygamy and give reasons outside of just jealousy. Because I think a lot of the time, men just think the only reason why women are rejecting this is jealousy. And jealousy, yes, that can be enough of a reason for a woman to not want to be part of polygamy, because polygamy is not a game for the lighthearted. It's just not. And some women cannot handle it. For some women, it will lead them to doing something that will harm their faith. So it's better for them not to be in it than for them to be in it. And we've all heard of some horror stories about what some women have ended up doing when their husbands have gone behind their backs and married without them knowing. So yes, jealousy can be a very big motivator. But I also want to speak on this video to let the men know where the woman's thinking is coming from when it comes to a lot of this polygamy thing. Because I think that a lot of the time, men don't really listen to their wives about the reason why the wife does not, or she feels as though polygamy is not helping her. Men will not often listen to their wives about this. So maybe this can serve as a video where men can watch to get a deeper understanding of why women are actually saying no to polygamy. In the woman's mind, in your wife's mind, the wife that you already have, in her mind, she's probably thinking, I have sacrificed a lot for us as a couple and us as a family to get to where we are now in life. And after all of my sacrifices, now that it's time for me to enjoy the fruit of my labor, you're telling me that I have to share that with someone else. And I know men like to pull out the thing of, God allows me, so it's not about you. Let's be honest. If a lot of you men want to be honest, the decision of polygamy is very much a selfish one. It's very much a selfish one. It's not you really doing, for a lot of the time, I won't say all of the time, a lot of the time, you're not making a decision to marry another woman because it's going to be something that's going to help your wife. It's mostly for your benefit. And I think men should actually start by actually acknowledging that and just sitting in it. That's why. Yes, it's selfish. But the wife, a lot of the time, when you've been with your wife for a long time, she may not have contributed financially, but she has contributed so much to the growth of the family, to your growth as a man. A lot of women that I have spoken to who have been through polygamy are talking about how for years the man was not where he needed to be. She's talking about years of her sacrificing the quality time that she would have had with her husband, her sacrificing the time that he would have spent with the children, and them just allowing him to just go hard with work so he can earn money so that they can elevate their lives and live in better homes and be in better school districts and all of these things. And it's like, I gave up the time that I had with my husband. I remember when my husband didn't have much. And some women, they have invested their own money to get their husbands to be at a stage where they now are. And also the investment of time, the investment of emotional support. Some women have pushed their men to become the great men that they are now. Some women are saying to me, Nafisa, when I married him, he had no ambition. He had nothing. I accepted the smallest amount for my dowry. We literally had to share apartments with my mother-in-laws, with our brother-in-laws. These were the difficulties that we went through. And I was ready to go through it with him. And then I encouraged him. I introduced him to this person, to that person. I looked for the work. I did the job application. I did all of this. And now that he has the job, now that he has the position, now that we're in a space where we can all collectively enjoy, the only thing going through his mind is how he can add on another woman. And that really gets women mad. Another example here is some women, it's not that their men are now at a point where they can afford to have another wife, but they choose to do it either way. One of the reasons why they choose to do it is because some of us women are so desperate, and we will happily marry men who we don't even require for them to take care of us in any way. We're just like, I just want to be married. So I'll look after myself. I'll pay for everything. I'll carry his burdens as a man, and I'll also be a wife as long as I have the title of wife. And so for that reason, men who are broke and can't afford polygamy can go marry, because us women make it easy for them. That's the reality we also have to accept. But they also go and do it knowing that they can't afford to. And that really bothers the first wife, because she's already carrying burdens that are not hers to carry. A lot of women are so mad when their husbands come and tell them, I want to take a second wife, because she's thinking, you can't even provide enough for us to live on. Like, if your wife did not contribute her earnings, if you were not getting government support, you would not be able to feed and have shelter for your family on your income alone. So how dare you, knowing that, turn around and tell me you're going to carry another responsibility and throw it on top of what you already cannot carry. And some men will say, well, that's not her problem, that's my problem. Well, it is her problem. In the end, it ends up being her problem, because when you marry another woman who you can't provide for as well, now you're thinking, well, if I used to give you £500 for food, I can't afford to give you £500 anymore, because you know I don't have money. And all I have is the extra 500. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to take 400 and she needs 100. And she's even more angry, because now whatever's missing, she's going to have to top it up if she wants her children to be able to be comfortable. If she wants to maintain living in a comfortable way, she has to add her income to it to make it work. So she's angry because without her support, you wouldn't be able to stand where you're standing now. And despite you knowing that, you're carrying another burden to add on top of everything else. You're not providing adequately. And I don't understand men who just have, personally, I'm sorry, but I can't understand men who just have the guts to be like, yeah, I can't look after her, so what? So like, she can look after herself. So it's okay for me to marry her. Your wife is really hurt because she's having to work extra hard to look after your children for you. They are your children. Because yes, in Islam, the children that a couple has first belong to their father because he's responsible for their upkeep. So she's working hard to look after your children, to raise your children. She's spending her money on your children. And now that you have a little bit of extra income, the only thing you can think about doing is throwing it into a different pot. So yes, she's mad because you don't even do enough for her. On this topic of not adequately providing, I want to talk about something very real here. I've heard women say, when it comes to physical intimacy and him satisfying me in that way, he can't even fulfill that. So if once a week he's able to perform and now he's telling me he's going to get another wife, then what should I expect? I'm going to have to expect less than that from him, because now he also has to share that between me and her. So it's just adding more to the pain. And it's all coming from you're not at a place where you have more than enough to give. And so what she can see from that is all the things she's going to lose versus all the things that she should be gaining. And it's not because polygamy is wrong, as society likes to think of it. Because I believe everything that Allah has made permissible, He's done it in His own wisdom. And He made all of us. He created us. He created the dynamics in the world. So if He says something is good, there is goodness in it. But just because something is halal doesn't mean that it's always the best decision to make. There are cases where it's the best decision to make, but it doesn't mean that it's for everybody. Because one person could do that same halal thing and thrive with it. And another person can do that same halal thing and not thrive with it because it's not best for their particular situation. I'm sitting here with one wife and only 3 kids. I'm not man enough. I need to go and marry another wife. She needs to drop another 5 children. That other one needs to drop another 5 children. So I can just have children all over the place because it makes me look more like I'm a man. But how many of those kids are you providing for? A lot of women have been forced into the role of becoming masculine. They've been forced into the role of being the providers because you have the men. You guys have just, a lot of you have just become lazy. And some people will be like, that's because women have such high expectations. Look at the conditions of the righteous predecessors when they married other women. But their husbands took on their manly roles and their manly duties. They did. It's no longer what we have these days when you have one man with 4 wives. All of these wives are working. He's not, oh my God. The more I think about it, I'm just like, who's marrying these men anyway? Like, some of you sisters really need to stop dropping your standards so low. I'm sorry. I know it might sound like it's easy for me to say, but the guy has 2 wives, 3 wives. He has no job and you become the number 4. Why are you doing this to yourself? In any case, that's one of the reasons why women are against their husbands marrying more wives. On this note, because I know a lot of women are going to be watching this video, I want to say to my fellow sisters, sometimes some of us think we're being nice. We're being kind to our husbands by allowing the government take care of the responsibility that the husband is supposed to take care of. So you go and claim all of the social money that you want to claim. You make out you're not married, but you actually are, so you can claim everything. Number 1, not only is that money haram because you actually are married, but number 2, what you do by doing stuff like that is you make a man lazy. Sometimes, this is what some of us women don't want to hear. Sometimes we're the reasons why some of these men are lazy. We're the reasons why some of these men take on more wives, because we don't allow them to take any responsibilities as a man. They don't have to work. So in a sense, we marry ourselves to the government. The government pays for your house. The government pays for the bills. The government puts food on the table. The government pays for the clothing that the children wear. The government is taking all of the responsibility that your husband is supposed to take. So no wonder why he now has extra money to be getting multiple women. If he had to work hard to provide for you and your children, he would understand the importance of responsibility and the weight of the responsibility that taking a wife comes with. We're trying to be helpful. We think we're trying to be helpful. And you men, are you listening out there? Sometimes when your wife thinks she's trying to remove a burden from you, what gets her more angry when you come up with this polygamy thing is when you don't even consider her. So she's made, and this is my next point, women are often angry about the suggestion of polygamy because she's thinking, the sacrifices that I've made for this family to get to where they are now, you're not willing to do that for me. You're not willing to do that for us. Sometimes a woman has sacrificed her time, her money, her resources for the greater good of the family, putting aside what's best for her and doing what is best for the family. And I teach women about this on my Patreon when I teach them about femininity and being submissive. Sometimes it involves a bit of that. But as women, though, we can't overdo it. Because when you overdo it and you overcarry someone's responsibility for them, they never learn to value what they have. So that's one of the reasons why women don't want the polygamy. Because they feel like they've been cheated to where the extra resources that you now have, if you have them, instead of pouring it back into the family that invested in you, you take it outside to somebody else and you bring somebody else in and mix that person also into the pot that you already have that is now your family. The next reason why some women refuse polygamy, I've alluded to it in my things I've said previously, but it's because men, when they meet, when men meet other women, when a man has another woman in his life and she's the new shiny object, most of his excitement, his joy is more shifted towards that side. And so your previous wife or your previous wives may be feeling like you're no longer emotionally connected to them the way you were. You no longer have the time. The quality time that you used to spend together is now either lost or is halved, or now you're angry with your current wife because all of your love and attention has now shifted to this new shiny object. So she loses time with you. You're probably fighting and arguing more. So she's lost the love is dying on a daily. You're fighting on a daily. You're not spending enough quality time with her. You may care less about her children, or maybe you don't care less about her children. But again, the commitment that you once had with the kids are no longer there because now it's all about this new woman. And this is the part that is extremely painful for women. And this is what makes polygamy, it can be such an emotional roller coaster for a lot of women. Because your wife, in her heart, she probably loves you. And she wants to stay with you because she loves you. But the reality of it is up and down, up and down, up and down. Because she's happy as long as you guys are a unit. But the second you also say, okay, and now I need to go and see my other wife, it's like the pain just sinks into her heart. Polygamy is not for the faint-hearted, and it can be quite a test for a woman. I don't think you men quite understand how deep of a test polygamy can actually be for a woman. Some women are just able to manage with it because they work on changing their mindset, but not every woman can do that. So don't expect that your wife should just, what's her problem? She should just be able to deal with it. She's not the first woman to experience it. For her, the experience is new. Having other people experience something and you actually being in it can be two different things. So for her, it's new. So now all of the love, the attention, the quality time, all of that is gone. Her name no longer sparks, excitement for you. Now your phone is filled with the other woman's picture. Every second you want to be on the phone talking to the other woman, or you want to be in the other woman's house. Now you're not eating your old wife's meals anymore. Now your old wife is the worst woman in the world because you've got a whole list of all of the bad things about her, and you're idealizing this new woman, and she's the perfect wife because you're probably still quite new to the new wife, and so she's probably still presenting you her perfect representative. You're yet to see her flaws. But your old wife, again, comes across to you as something you're quite fed up with. So you're short-tempered, so you have short temper with her. You get into fights and argument with her. You're avoiding her food. You're doing all of these things. And all what that is doing is validating in her mind why this thing is a bad idea. Because even though you may have had your issues before in marriage, at least you were not as neglectful as you may become once you're with a new woman. I know that sometimes men think it's smart to take another wife because when I get another wife, then you will behave. I'm warning you. You're creating a mess that you might not be able to fix when you do that. If you have a problem with your wife, try to resolve it with just you and her. Don't think bringing somebody else into it is going to solve the issue, because if she sees the new one that's being good, then she's going to also want to compete with her. So she's going to change her behavior. A lot of women these days, they just feel like I've had enough. And at that point, she wants out. And if you actually don't want to lose your wife, your current wife, take the time to also invest in her. Take the time to invest in her, because for the most part, your first wife is probably the woman who has been through most of the struggles with you. She's carried a lot of responsibilities with you. She's been through so much with you. If anything, you should put her on a pedestal. Just the way the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, put Khadija on a pedestal. You should put her on a pedestal, because she probably was there for you at a time where you didn't have much, and she still stood by you. Polygamy can be an emotional roller coaster for a woman. And I know some of you out there don't care about women's emotions, but I find it hard to understand how you can claim you love someone and not care about how they feel. I don't know. It just doesn't. The two, I'm struggling. Because if you really love someone, then you're going to care how they feel. You might not care as much as they do, but you're going to care. There's going to be elements of you caring about their emotional well-being. So even though you have a right to make your decisions, I hope some of the things that I've spoken about has enlightened you and given you an understanding of, okay, if she's not for it, there are reasoning behind it. It's not always just she's jealous. It's not always about that. There can be a lot of benefits with polygamy. Maybe that's a video for another day. But us human beings are making this experience of polygamy, we're making it really bad. I'm not gonna lie. There aren't a lot of good examples of polygamy. There aren't a lot of good examples, because for polygamy to work, all the people involved have to be very genuine with each other, and they have to be very God-fearing, and they have to be very fair on one another. If you have one person trying to without that, it doesn't work. It creates more problems than it does resolve problems, because we don't do it in the way that Quran and Sunnah has taught us to behave. We don't do that. We don't apply that to polygamy. And so that's why a lot of the times it doesn't work. Honestly, I respect women who can do polygamy and they do it well. I have a lot of respect for them, because it's not easy. It can't be easy to do polygamy. because every woman, when she loves her husband, there's just a natural inclination not to want to share that. It's natural. But there's more to it than that. And I hope this video has shed some light on some of the reasons why your wives may not be wanting you to add on more wives. In the end, it's something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed. Those who are going through it and they are finding it challenging, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease the burden if it feels like a burden. And more than that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it an enjoyable experience. And I ask the men, please consider carefully. Don't just marry women on a whim. Consider carefully before you make these decisions. Because once you've lost the trust that exists between you and your wife, it can be very difficult to rebuild it. And when trust is lost in a marriage, it's the beginning of the end, unless you rebuild it. All right, my dears, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Share this video with anyone out there. I think the men really need an understanding of why some women are saying no, and I hope this has helped. I'm going to love you and leave you, inshallah. Jazakallahu khair. I will see you guys in my next video. Assalamualaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.